Well, it's another morning, cold for me, maybe not cold for you, but so I was just reading stuff because I like, kind of just skimming through about cars. I just like, I don't know, I don't really have like I mean, I have my preferred brands, but I'm like, I don't mind like other companies, to be honest. Like, I don't be in terms of me owning one, not, sure. I'm like, I'm not really one to want to own something that I can't afford to maintain. If I can't, that's the key thing. If you can't afford to maintain a car, I would not recommend buying it, right? But for me, and just looking at stuff from the performance world, I think I saw somewhere it was like around the time when Chevy was making, like, in the making for the C8, which, it's still a great move, but I think it was one of the either designers or engineers or both. I can't exactly remember that part right now, but it was one of the guys who pretty much, he basically said from Chevy, he basically said that like the C7, especially because I think people would like to talk about, the Nürburgring times, because that's usually what will test like a performance car. That's the one track that should be able to test a performance car the most, because that'll test that car pretty much in every aspect. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were disappointed that the C7 ZR1 never really got, I guess not a true like official lap time, because I'm like, it never they did it, like they went over there and all they did was they were just doing calibrations for MagnaRide, but that's all they did. And they said the fastest they ever saw from an unofficial standpoint was a 7 minutes and 4 seconds. I'm like, okay, that's fine, right? And while they're saying that's fast, but I'm like, yeah, that's for what that car is. That's a little bit slower than I would say you'd expect, right? Because like, obviously the whole goal of that car, I think, in some people's eyes, I don't know if that was in Chevy's eyes, but I would assume yes, would be the goal for the C7 ZR1s was supposed to be, beat the Viper at the time. But obviously never happened. It fell 3 seconds short. For the engineer or the designer that said that, like, the reasoning to move to that mid-engine platform that the C8 has, they said that like that front engine, rear transaxle setup. He said he believes that is basically about as fast as they could go. Like, basically, this is basically the limit of that setup, right? Like, that is, even if it was correctly done, he's like, he doesn't think it would have gone like any much faster. I know the theoretical times was supposed to be 6:57, which obviously today those Mustang GTDs obviously put that on its first attempt and did it even quicker the second time. But for me, I'm like, the way when he said that, I'm like I don't know. I guess for him, if you go all out performance, I think that could go faster. But I think he's speaking, obviously it's a factory car, right? Production car. And this is supposed to be, the Corvettes are supposed to almost always be the best bang for bucks compared to every single brand. Because you'll get like near, like close to like power and everything, performance aspects without all the weight, right? They try to do as much weight saving as they can. But I'm like, if you think that's the best you can do, I think they're lying, right? Because I'm like, we've seen what a front engine torque tube car setup could actually be if you went all out. And no, it's not an American brand. Mercedes did it, right? Mercedes did it with the AMG Black Series. And that thing did two different, it did the full course and it did the Nordschleife course. It did the full course in 6 minutes and 48 seconds, which, by the way, is still faster than, as of right now, is still faster than the C8 ZR1. Not by much, no, right? Obviously, because everyone's going to say, like, oh, the Chevy only used the engineers. They didn't use professional race car drivers. Fair enough, right? That's true. That C8 could probably go faster if you had the right driver who had the right instincts for it. But in terms of just comparing the last front engine Corvette that we have here in the States compared to that version, right? Like, this is a identical setup, right? From a powertrain standpoint, you have a front engine, transmission behind the person, massive, torque tube, and they literally call it a torque tube over there. Okay, so I'm like, this is the same goddamn setup. Right now, whatever engines you throw in there, whatever transmissions they decide to use, is their choice. That's their own manufacturing thing. But just from where the weight is of the car, it is almost identical. Right, you got front engine, rear transmission. On the shorter track, it did a 643. The AMG. I don't think Corvettes ever try. I think normally whenever the Americans go over there, they only do the full course. So if we're going to go straight up full course, it still did a 648. So if the theoretical times with C7 ZR1 was 657, then yes, we are relatively slow. Okay? Like, we are 9 seconds behind the next torque tube vehicle. And they didn't even make it. We did. We made the torque tube in what is it now? That would be 28 years ago, right? Like, it wasn't like with the C5. We were the ones that, in terms of the sports car world, we were kind of the ones that really tried to push what this setup could be on street cars, on production vehicles. So, like, the fact that Mercedes started it much later than we did and basically perfected that setup almost immediately is kind of crazy, to be honest. Now, is that car, that style, like that 2015 to 2022 AMG, you say, is that style obviously more affordable to the normal person, right? Or just in general, like, is that a what do you call it, bang for buck compared to the Corvette? No, right? The Corvette has all the power, has the power and everything of that matter, and that car does. But there are certain things that are not as overly complex or over engineered as that car has, right? Say that 15 to 22 version of the AMG, all of them were dry sumped. Not all C7s were dry sumped. Right? And say ZR1s, obviously, that makes sense. Z06s, I think after a certain point for the C7s, whether you had either transmission became dry sumped no matter what. It was the non-crazy versions, the Grand Sport. The manual Grand Sports of the C7 were dry sumped. The Z51, so that one I could have misheard it, but I think they were dry sumped. But if not, they probably just had some sort of like what do you call it? Some sort of fine tuning of the suspension just to kind of help it out a bit. So, but like I said, for what from just the performance aspect, regardless of the price, I think we weren't really pushing the boundaries. We weren't able to push the boundaries, right? Mercedes is willing to push that boundary for sure, but they're also a they're the one that's willing to really go crazy on the pricing of just not the car, right? Just the parts for the car. So they will go straight up, all out, right? And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, I think at least for the Black Series specifically, that is a flat plane 4-liter twin turbo V8, right? For the ZR1s, we had a pushrod LT5, which I think power output was pretty close on what they were like. For a C7, I think did a 755 on power. For the Black Series, I think it was like 740. Right? They weren't so far apart. It might have been more. It might have been like 760. And so that one I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But you said 9 seconds. That's a time right there. That's basically the difference between pushing it here in America and pushing it there in Germany with their engineering skills, right? They're pushing these cars to the absolute limit. So I'm like, I like those Mercedes, and like even then, right? The regular versions, like the base model AMG GTs, like just the GTC, GTRs, all that stuff. The base model, even that one, that's a nice car, right? Expensive, yes. These are AMGs we're talking about. They're not supposed to be cheap. They're not meant to be cheap. And obviously, it being dry sump vehicles obviously have tendencies to be even more expensive, right? In terms of a dry sump vehicle on a budget, yes, you've got the C6 Z06 to do that. But and that C6 Z06 from NA pushes more power than the base model AMGs. Because I think the base AMGs push 470-ish, somewhere there, 460, 470. So they'll push basically the same amount of power as a base model C7, right? So that's why they say from a budget perspective, yes, the Corvettes are the best bang for bucks, just compared to their competition. And that's basically what the C7's competition was for a good couple of years, right? Say C6, I mean, Mercedes had the SLS, right? That one was basically kind of the C6's competition. But even then, I'm like, I don't, from just how much they are, especially now, I'm like, the price of that SLS is crazy now. So, yeah, Corvettes, I think Corvettes will always have the best edge in terms of pricing. And yeah, I know parts, like keeping up with the car is another thing, or even upgrades. But even then, if you try to go, if you're one that really cares about, power performance, and you try to just upgrade, like, I don't know, add force induction, add maybe change internals, I don't know, right? Whatever fits your poison at that point. Even then, right, it's still cheaper to build the Corvettes. Just because this engine, it's not like an engine that's only kept in this car, right? They use like identical parts on every small block that they have. Displacements are about the only real thing that changes everything. And obviously what the engine is made of. But I'm like, yes, I'm like, the parts are widely available. So for that, I'll give it. Right. But I'm not one to ever really dog on German cars and stuff, because I'm like, when they work, right? Whenever they're actually working at their best, and whenever our cars are working at our best, I think yes, those German cars are supremely better than our cars. But obviously, that's my opinion on that matter. I'm like, I think they just work better when everything is actually working in place and working as intended. Yes, the German cars, I think, make better vehicles than we do. So, like, that's why I'm like, I don't mind it. Like, I know some people will say just to never buy one of certain things. For Mercedes, yes, I know there's a certain, I guess, time period that can be very interesting for Mercedes, just because of they had a gap of flaw. Like, they've had their flaws, but like they just had certain time periods where I'm like, this is like nowhere near what you'd expect from Mercedes. But I think for me, obviously, if I were to own another vehicle and it wasn't my C5, I would obviously love, and if it was not C6 or C7, yes, that AMG, even the base one. I don't really care for the Black Series, to be honest, in terms of, now me driving one, sure thing, but me owning one straight up, I would like the GTS or the GTC, I think, for me. So those ones, to me, just nice. And it has the retractable wing, which I love retractable wings. I think they're cool. I know other companies have had it too. And no, not every car with a retractable wing is always godly expensive, right? Now, was it rare to find one that's like not a stupidly expensive car that has that? No. It is, like, it's not easy, right? It's pretty rare to find that. I think the cheapest, the only one I could really think of right now, only reason why is because one of my buddies owns one. He has an Audi A7 from 2017. And those cars are they're supercharged V6s from Audi. And those things are nice, right? They're nice cars. And he has the little retractable wing and everything. And I'm like, this is just cool. I don't know. They're just, it's like aesthetically pleasing for me. Like some other cars I can think of, like Lexus RCFs, those have retractable wings. And it's usually only on the 5-liter RCFs. I think depending on the package that you have, the LC 500 can have a retractable wing, but that one's very much package dependent. AMG, obviously, I'm sure they have more than just the car I just mentioned with that. I think the SLS AMGs also had that. But you know, for AMGs, that'd be cool. If I would like to own another car just in general with a similar, just purely off sound, I would say, dude, those Lexus 5-liters to me sound beautiful. I know they're not the quickest, right? Because this is basically my best way of kind of just describing that car. It's, to me, basically just a basically just a oh yeah, it was basically just a Mustang. It has Mustang-like power, right? It has Mustang power, but it has the weight of a Dodge Challenger. That's my best way of describing the Lexus 5-liter vehicles, especially the RCF, because I know the RCF is supposed to be their track car, right? But I'm like, dude, if you're gonna give this thing this much weight, you better give it some sort of aero. Like, look at Ford, right? Ford used it on the GTD, and that Mustang is a heavy ass car. See, that is a big car. That thing is 4,400. That weighs as much as a flipping Hellcat. 4,400 pounds, and that thing did a 653 on a Nürburgring. I'm like, bro. So whoever, if you're able to push this big ass car that fast, that's impressive. Man, like, I don't think people understand that. Like, from the list of the Nürburgring times that under the 7-minute mark, I'm pretty sure that Ford is probably the heaviest car there, and the fact that it's able to do that is phenomenal. So, but anyways, enough of me yapping for the morning. So, time to go back to work again. Here we go. All right. Well, I'm gonna just park up here in a second. So bumpy. Oh, and even the other thing, actually, for the AMG, before I forget, those AMGs also had their own version of MagneRide. Like, they had MagneRide as well, which is quite interesting, you know, just because I'm not a fan of MagneRide for the most part. In terms of driving one, they're nice, right? They were very nice. Now, replacing one is so unbelievably expensive. Like, it's crazy. But, hey, you know, if you can afford it, if you can afford to maintain that vehicle, even just basic preventative maintenance, just basic stuff, have at it, you know, have fun with it, live your life. So, but all right though, I'm gonna flip these headlights down for 1, 2, 3. Hell yeah! All right, I'm out.